Okay, so I've got my shape made out on the wood, and all I'm doing is using a rat tail file to file that out, and I'll bring it down to the bottom, and then I'll just widen it out from there. When that's done, I'll choose my face and the second piece of wood, and I'll do the corresponding shape to grab into it. Okay, all good. This is a pretty simple shape to do. There we are so far. Haven't glued it, but that's it. Now, it's not a perfect fit, but it's pretty good. And as my dad says, or as the saying goes, a little bit of putty hides a multitude of sins. And I think it's going to hold true in this scenario. Okay, so I'm going to, I think I'll pin it together with just toothpick in the middle. That won't move too much. Just be a bit of extra strength holding it together. Okay, so there we go. Righto guys, been working on the handles. I ended up having to break the first handle I did to use it as a template for the other one, because I decided it was a bit too hard to match it up exactly. Thought I'd be able to do it alright, but didn't work out that way. But so, glued it back together, and I've taped both of them together, and I've rounded off the ends. So that's going to be the sort of grain pattern you're going to get up the top there. I put putty into the gaps of where the two are meeting. So hopefully that should fill it sufficiently. I ended up using PVA glue to glue the two together because it glues clearly. The Durabond foams up and yeah, it has its own colour. So hopefully that will provide a better finish. But I'll be using the Durabond to glue them to the knife handle. Glue the scales to the knife. All I did was, to round these off, all I did was tape together so they could match. And I just put them on the belt sander. You don't need a belt sander to do it. You can do it with files, sandpaper, anything. I just did it on that because literally 15 minutes. Probably less than 15 minutes, really. And yeah, just I got the tool, so I use it. If you don't have it, you can still do it. Okay. Yeah, just with different tools, file and sandpaper. Righto. I've taped up my blade. I'm going to drill the holes. Now, if there's confusion on how the holes are drilled, keep watching. I've got my 1/4 inch drill bit, which is 6.35 millimeters for those wanting the conversion. This is Australia, so we use millimeters, but the drill bit I bought as 1/4 inch because some of you might know that it's really hard to get 6 mil. 6 mil diameter steel, brass or copper rods. Okay, most of them are 6.3 mil or 6.35 mil as the 1/4 inch. So I bought a genuine 1/4 inch drill bit just for it. Just going to make sure the holes are clean. And they are. I've scratched up the surface here. That'll help the glue, the adhesive stick. Now, where's the knife? Where's the knife? I've got like 5 knives here, but they're blanks. This thing. Yeah. Righto. So what I want to do is, hang on, let me remove this. Usually put the belt center where the camera is, but the tripod's taking up the room, so whatever, just as long as it doesn't turn on and throw my tea off, actually. Right, hang on, bear with me, I'm just going to clean the putty off these, and I'll be right back. Okay, now I've sanded the putty off, so that's what I'm left with. I think they look pretty good. You can see the putty in parts, but overall I think that's pretty bloody good, eh? Yeah. There's the backs. You can see there's a bit of a gap in there and a bit of a gap in there. You're not going to see that. And that's the end grain. So now for drilling. Get rid of that. Now, okay. Line it up. I'm going to skew this one a little bit. Although, I might get a better idea if I sit it this way first. Yeah. Because these holes aren't drilled center all the way, like this one's drilled in a different place, so they're not straight. I'm going to try and angle it a little bit so I get this hole, this pin in the center of the pattern, because I don't really want this pin being here with the others being in the center. You get what I'm saying? Right. And I've just got enough room to play with it. So, yeah, I think that should be fine. Righto. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this down, clamp it to the bench with a G-clamp or C-clamp, whatever you want to call it, and then I'm going to drill the holes. That simple. That simple. Now you put the pine something underneath it. One, so you don't drill into your bench, and two, so the wood the other side of your scale doesn't split when the drill pops through. Okay. Yep. One hole drilled. I'm going to drill this one. No, it hasn't moved. Hasn't moved at all. I'm still going in that hole. So I've just drilled. Now I'll do this one. It's important you make sure your holes are still aligned if you have to move the clamp like I do. And also important you drill straight. How's that? Yeah, sorry. Slightly off center, but pretty darn good, I reckon. I didn't measure that. I just freehanded all that. So yeah, I think that's pretty bloody good. Okay. I ended up doing what I said I wasn't going to do. What I was going to do, just so you understand, is I was going to sandwich the knife blade, the tang, in between the two scales and drill through, so I was drilling through both the first scale and the tang into the undrilled scale. I reckon I've gotten the holes all pretty well matched up anyway. So I've just squared these off, squared the two scales off, and I'm just going to drill straight in. Okay. Now one little trick, because I can't see all the way through the holes because it's dark, I've drilled them. I know these are both aligned. I don't want to lose that alignment, so I'm going to use the second clamp here, and I'm going to clamp it up before I take this one off. And that way these two are still square when I take the other clamp off. It's relatively foolproof. Okay. Righto. Now I've just cut my pins, and I'm just going to deburr the ends of them. With the file. I got one a bit short, the shortest one, so I don't have much room for error with that, but that'll be fine. You deburr the pins, one so they fit in, and two so they don't accidentally grab part of the wood on the face side and split it, rip it, or chip it. It just looks nasty if that happens. They don't need to be perfect, but you don't want too many rough bits. Too many rough bits there. Basically, if it's catching your finger, I think that's too much. Catching the skin on your finger, and you think you could, I don't know, potentially cut yourself. It's probably too much of a burr. Righto. Now I'm going to rough up the insides of these and rough up the sides of the pins with just some 80 grit sandpaper. Grit. This helps the adhesive bond. File will do a good enough job on the pins. You shouldn't run both ways on them, but this little bit won't hurt it. Just scratched it up a little. Righto. Now, make sure I got the right scale for each side because the holes are in different angles, they won't line up on both sides. There we go. And if I want, I can pop that pin through, pop this one through, that one through. This way I know it's all lined up, or all lining up. And there we go. Got the pins in. Now I've got to glue it and clamp it. And that's pretty much it for today. It'll take, I'll leave it overnight to glue. The pin's a little stuck. There obviously wasn't enough pressure on this one when I drilled it because it's popped out a little bit. We should be able to fix that up if I'm careful with it. Righto, so I'll show you how to use this glue. It's pretty simple, straightforward, but you need to wet the surface. You're gluing. Hang on. Yeah, righto. Just had to think how I'm setting this up first. I set mine up relatively uniquely. You can see the mess of all the sandpaper I've got from the knives. I get a G-clamp, C-clamp, whatever you want to call it. I'll put that in there. Okay, sorry about that. I ran out of memory on that storage card, so I had to whack all this together quickly. Now I didn't think I was going to be able to get that middle pin in, however I've worked out I can, or I've discovered I can. So might as well get that on video for you. I assembled this on the bench, so I laid one scale down, put two pins in it, put the glue on it and put some glue on the pins, on the side of the pins, and then sat the tang over the top of it. Then I put some glue on the tang, some more glue on the side of the pins, and then sat the other scale down on top of that, and then whacked it in this makeshift jig. Now, all I'm going to do is, that works. Just make sure this pin's scratched up. All good. It shouldn't make too much of a bonding difference because the glue in there is still drying. I mean, this stuff takes 24 hours to dry completely. Hasn't even been an hour. Hasn't even been half an hour. Now, yeah, it always seems to work in theory. Principles another thing. I'm going to try and squeeze some... Oh, I'm blocking you out there, aren't I? Going to try and squeeze some... No, sorry. I'm going to have to block these out. For whatever reason I can't. Okay. Squeeze. Squeeze. And I've got a tiny little blob in there. And I'll put a little bit on the pin. Careful not to get it on my fingers, because this stuff takes at least a week to get off your skin if it gets on it. I don't know how we're going from time. 3 minutes left. It's going to be longer than I expected this video. Now, I'm going to grab the pin. Here it is. And try and just poke it in. And there's glue on the other side, so that's good. Means it's all glued right through the whole hole for the pin. So there you have it. It's gluing. And when you see this next, it'll be in another video, and it should be complete, just needing a sheath. So I hope you liked it, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you all later in the next video. See you.